Uh, Great. So first is I'd like to welcome everybody, and I want to thank you for making the time to be with us today. My name is Luis Moreno. I am in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. I am originally from Latin America, Venezuela, and I moved to the U.S. back in the 90s as I was younger, and I was coming to go to school. And I've been here since. I have family, kids, wife, and kind of a happy guy, and happy to see you all here today. So I have three friends that will be leading voices with me today, and I'm going to be introducing them in a minute. And what I would love to do is to have, we have the next 90 minutes for us to just engage in a conversation, open conversation about what's going on, what everyone on the call is going through, good, bad stories, anecdotes, funny stories, sad stories, whatever you'd like to share. We will have some experts in the, besides the experts that we have here with me as leading voices, we have some of the participants that are actually experts in some of the human fields. So I look forward to a great and fascinating call here. But I'm going to go ahead and read just the bios for my friends here, and then, they'll go ahead and talk about themselves. But I'll start with Nadege. Nadege Minois was born and raised in France. She began her professional life as a biologist, which led her to live and work in another 4 countries. Nadege has lived in the US, in Germany, in Austria, and now she lives in the UK. This experience ignited her passion for cultural diversity and inclusion. She is now self-employed, and she's a trainer, a facilitator, and a coach in cultural competence and inclusion. She works globally to help leaders and organizations to become more inclusive. And Nadege just recently published a book, so very excited about that. Then I'd love to share the bio for Henrika. So Henrika Tonder is originally from Finland. She has lived half of her life in France, so I'm seeing a France connection here, a France pattern here today, and is now located in Helsinki with her husband of 2 decades and 3 teenage boys. She stands for equality, and she believes that we can't afford to waste another generation of unused human potential. As a self-employed peace performance coach, Henrika helps international high achievers, startup founders, and CEO in growth. Whoops, hold on a second, guys. I apologize. Let me keep going here. Okay, so CEOs in growth companies raise their level of awareness, develop emotional intelligence, and create their best possible lives. She works globally in 4 languages: English, French, Finnish, and Swedish. So for all of you, I'm going to take a moment here, guys. Sorry, I have, it's just hard to be able to keep up with all of the folks coming in into the lobby. But okay, and then the last but not least, our friend Nazneen Bharde. She's a behavioral and soft skills training consultant. She's a language translator, content writer, and copywriter for digital and offline platforms. She supports professionals and students in resume building. She did her MBA in human resources and has over 20 years of overall experience at various roles in many industries, both as an employee and as a vendor. She's worked in telecom, finance, IT, banking, education, and let's see, she has worked for many international organizations, including the world's #1 French multinational company. So France. Okay, as part of her training team. At a personal level, Nazneen is an Indian classical vocalist with interest in genres Ghazal and Sufi. I apologize for not saying that right, Nazneen. She loves to create Bollywood music from 1955 to today. Being a solo traveler for 20 years, exploring prime tourist attractions in India has helped her to connect with people of all ages and times with ease through 4 languages. She speaks English, Hindi, Marathi, and Urdu. This experience added to her understanding of the real essence of diversity and inclusion. So these are my 3 friends leading voices for today. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do a round where each one of us will just say a welcoming thought there. So I'll start with you, Nadege. Any thoughts for today?
Thank you, Luis. Well, my first thought is, first of all, thank you for the opportunity of being here with you and all of you in this human conversation. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really excited about it. And I'm really looking forward to not just talking, obviously, but to hearing all of you, your experiences, your stories.
This is our
and
we have organized a Zoom meeting with
here that I have to.
industry
I'm
leaders.
gonna ask that that you guys mute your. Okay, I think we have the person mute or not. Oh, so let me see if I can find the person.
Yes, yeah.
Hold on.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and on a second mute everyone, and then I'm going to unmute you. Nadege. I apologize, guys. Okay. Here. Okay, you can unmute. If you can unmute yourself, Nadege. Okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I just want to say welcome, everyone. Gosh, what a commitment. It's just so early for many of you. 5:30 for somebody on the west coast of the US. It's really tremendous to have you here, and I'm really looking forward to this discussion. And all I want to say is that I'm all for respect, understanding, accepting others, and so I'm here to share stories and hearing your stories. Wonderful. And Luis, you also need to introduce yourself.
Yeah. Yes, you forgot.
So I'll do that then after. Let's do the round first. So we'll do Henrika. Sure. We'll do Nazneen, and then I'll say a few words about myself.
Yes. So hi everybody, and thank you, Nadege, for those words, and Luis as well. And happy to be here with all of you. I love to see the smiles on your faces. I love to see all the global representation here. I'm very honored to see people, colleagues, new friends, new acquaintances, and very much looking forward to this unscripted, open conversation that we can co-create here together. So thank you for being here, and it's really heartwarming to see all of you amazing beings present with us here. So thank you so much, and looking forward to learning from you all as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Henrika, and thank you for making the time to be with us today. And then Nazneen.
First of all, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. I know there are different people in different parts of the world, especially to Silo. It's 5:30 a.m. in a country, and wow, I love you for being here at this time. I had been at this time in Luis' program before, so I know how it is. Okay, so looking forward to the whole thing. We are going to talk on human conversations, and there's no limit. You can come out with any topic which you think is around your mind, and you really think we can help you or support you or guide you or just advise you on how to go about it. The final choice is yours. So looking forward to the whole thing. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nazneen. And I love the chat, what's going on here. And we have Cielo is joined us from California, Santa Barbara, and it's 5:30 a.m. for you. So Cielo, how are you doing there? You got some coffee this morning, or how do you make that happen to be up at 5:30?
I have coffee right now, actually, but I wake up pretty early, so it wasn't too hard. Don't worry about it.
Okay, wonderful, very good. Well, welcome. Great. So one of the ideas, and we have Ann Hilburn. Hi, Ann, and she's from New York, but she's residing right here in St. Paul, Minnesota. Very good. Wonderful. So one of the things that that we're going to do, each one of us, the four of us, has our expertise in our field. So we'll just kind of share a few thoughts, and we would love for you, to be able to engage for everyone in the call. And we're going to create breakout rooms, so you'll have an opportunity to meet somebody new today. And really, the idea is that as you hear people talking and sharing their thoughts, if you like their, thoughts and perspectives and you would like to connect with those people, what we would recommend, if you're open to it, if you're open to connecting on LinkedIn and have some new connections, then go ahead. We can do this right now. So on your computer, go ahead and open LinkedIn, and then go to your profile. So on LinkedIn, just kind of click on your own profile. And then when I mean, some of you I know how to do this, but just for anybody who may not know how to do it, I don't know, something's happened with my connection here where it's not working. But anyway, so the idea would be that you go to your profile and then click on your own profile, and then copy your address, your web address, from your profile, and then just paste it like you see some folks are doing it already. Make sure that you paste your profile, and then that way, make sure to either connect with those folks that you find, interesting, have a connection with you, somebody that you'd like to learn more from, or depending on how comfortable you are, if you want to connect with anybody who is not connected to me that wants to connect with me, I'm happy to connect with you and share thoughts and ideas. So on that note, so Henrika asked me to share some thoughts about myself. So I have a passion for emotional intelligence. For many years, I've been conducting training on emotional intelligence and human-centered leadership. So I work with organizations and leaders from around the world to help them with emotional intelligence. So on that note, in that field, I like to share a thought, and then kind of we'll take it from there. If you guys like the idea, you can join on that note. If you want to move into a different topic, we'll move into a different topic. We'll do whatever you want to do. But here is the thought. And this thought, depending on how much you know about emotional intelligence, for some of you, this is going to be very basic. But for some other of you, this may be something maybe different. So let's go with it, right? So here's the idea. So one of the opportunities that we have with emotional intelligence is that it gives us the opportunity to learn more about ourselves, right? And by knowing more about ourselves, one of the things that we learn about ourselves is our emotions. So we learn to manage our emotions. So in the vector of knowing, from knowing nothing about emotional intelligence, then knowing more until you know a lot about emotional intelligence. The more that you know about emotional intelligence, the more that you can understand, you can know your emotions, understand your emotions. And then, so in that vector, as I know more, so if I know a little bit, if I'm starting to learn my emotions, something happened to me, maybe last year, I had an incident, maybe a discussion, an argument, I got into an argument with somebody. So today, a year later, I recognize, oh, I got it. The reason why I was kind of acting that way was because I had this emotion, right? This emotion hijacked and kind of, took over, and I couldn't think, reasonably. I wasn't being very rational because this emotion was so strong that it kind of overtook my whole thinking, and I made a mistake and I said this thing that I now regret. So a year later, I recognize that. As we start to learn more and more emotional intelligence, we start to learn more about our emotions. We can accelerate that where it doesn't need to be a year later for me to recognize my emotion, but I can recognize it, for example, for something that happened yesterday. Oh, wow, yesterday I was this emotion overtook my brain. I couldn't think right. And then I can continue moving in that direction where I can recognize it the moment that is happening to me. So if I am in a conversation and somebody's saying something to me at work that is bothering me, it's irritating me, I'm getting frustrated, and the moment that is happening to me, I can already detect that something is happening in my body. And now when I detect it, the moment that is happening, it gives me the opportunity to do something about it, right? So it's like, I already know that I am feeling frustration here. What can I do about it so that I can manage myself and make better decisions at the moment? Now, it doesn't stop there, but you can actually continue moving in that vector where you can now not only recognize an emotion of something that is happening to you at the moment, but you can predict an emotion that you will have in the future because you already know how things make you feel. So if I say, for example, well, if somebody's divorced and say, well, this evening, I'm going to go to a soccer game to pick up my child and my ex is going to be there. I already can predict that, you know, if I had a bad breakup, I'm gonna feel a certain way when I see that person. So if I know that in advance and I can predict what I'm going to feel, the emotion that I'm going to have in the future, I can already proactively work to prepare so that I don't feel that emotion if it's a negative emotion, and I can instead, I can design the emotion that I'm going to feel. So basically, I think about what are the emotions that I don't like as much and what are the emotions that I like more. And then if I like the emotion of happiness, I can study the emotion of happiness and how it manifests in my body. When I feel happy, this is what I feel and how my body manifests, right? And then I'm going to learn that emotion so that the next time that I can predict that I'm going to have an emotion that is negative that I don't enjoy, then I can actually counteract that emotion that I would have otherwise felt. And I'm going to replace it with an emotion that I am intentionally designing to feel, because that's how I prefer to feel. So I prefer positive feelings and emotions of love, friendship, peace, calm, gratitude, togetherness. So those are the emotions that I design, and I use them to counteract and replace emotions that I can predict won't be as positive. So I like to share that. And like I said, if you like that idea and want to build on it, you're welcome to anyone in the panel and on the participants. And if you don't like the idea and you want to talk about something else, we can do that too. All right, so let's do it. Thoughts from my panel? Any thoughts on that?
Yes. Oh, Luis, that is extremely wonderful what you said. I'll just add to this one anecdote. I mean, yesterday I was traveling in an auto, and I have the habit, I cannot remain quiet. So I was talking to the auto driver, and we were talking on different things. And this was one of the things, I said, we were talking on empathy. Okay. So he said that nowadays there's no empathy left, and people think only about self. So I said, it's not that empathy is not there, it is there, and it is tremendously only with human species. It's just that we have forgotten. Take our ancestors 100 years ago, the empathy level was very high. We were very easily able to, get into someone else's shoes. But now, before getting into someone else's shoes, we think about our own life and things that doesn't allow us to, extend ourselves that further. So just that's the point.
Empathy is nothing new, right? I love that idea. We're not discovering empathy, right? We're rediscovering.
Yes. So that kind of conversation with an auto driver, and I talk a lot. So I always feel that people, irrespective of where they are, we all are same, and we should, discuss on every topic around. Yes. Someone else who can add to this, what I'm saying? Sandhya, Annie, Silo, Mergu. Hi, Mergu, please.
Yeah.
Give us your inputs.
Henrika.
Yeah, hi everyone. So that's what these are, I feel, are basic human traits. And this will always be there: fear, empathy, whatever we feel as basic human traits. And we shouldn't be worried about anything. We shouldn't be feeling that we don't have these traits. When I say we have empathy, we have it inside. We just have to maybe redefine it. We just have to surface our feelings. Any feeling for that matter. Everybody has everything inside. We just have to surface the positive things and just keep subsiding the negative thoughts we have inside.
Very well. Very good point, Sandhya. Thank you so much for giving inputs. Yes, anyone else would like to say on this?
Nadesh has a thought.
Yes, Nadesh.
Thank you. Yes, I decided to raise my hands. That might be an idea if you want to talk and that you want to make sure that we know about it. Raise your hand and we'll see that. Yeah, no, just to say I really totally agree with you both, Luis and Nazneen. And something I see myself in my field of cultural diversity and inclusion is how your emotions can either help or get in the way of diversity and inclusion. If you let your negative emotions overwhelm you when you interact with people from different culture, you will never open up, and you're not showing that empathy. That when you have that empathy, when you are ready to open up, to understand, to accept, which accepting doesn't mean agreeing, but accepted the fact that people are different and that they have something to bring, something different to bring, then this really helps you grow and develop and get better relationships. And yes, I can really see that relation between emotions, empathy, and cultural competence, and how inclusive you will be or not.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that connects what you're saying, Nadege, connects with a thought that we have here. Let's see, and this is Alexandria. So Alexandria says that all emotion takes our lives power rather than emotions. We should, go more with feelings, because there is a huge difference between emotions and feelings, right? Let's see, hold on a second here, if I can get all the, okay. We just need to realize it, right? Understand the difference between emotion and feeling. And the best thing is to observe yourself and control. I love that thought. Like, we have to observe ourselves. If we want to increase our level of emotional intelligence, we need to study ourselves more. And to do that, we need to observe ourselves. So Alexandria, I'm going to invite you. Would you like to share more on your thought of what you've written here? Where is Alexandria? Let's see. We're going to look up Alexandria. Alexandria, are you there? Would you like to share your thoughts? I don't see Alexandria here. All right. Well, Alexandria, if you would like to expand.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We can hear you. We cannot see you. Are you
I
camera
want
ready?
to see
You would
you
like
too.
to?
But it's okay. It's okay for just to share my opinion. Did you? Yeah, start my video. Yeah. Hello.
Okay. Perfect. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is what I think. The emotion actually is takes our life's power. So after, when we show the emotion, it doesn't mean it could be positive and negative. It still takes how to say, our life's power. So rather to show emotion, we could just control and observe ourselves, and we just can show the feelings. We can we have to realize the feelings and emotions is a bit different. So then that's the main point.
Thank you.
Sometimes when I show the emotion, I feel, how to say, not really good. But if I just feel something positive or even negative, it doesn't take I'm trying to extend as much as I can. I've got some points, but it's hard to explain by words. So,
yeah. So let's expand on. I think you bring a very, very great point, an excellent point. I'll just add a thought, and then Henrika, I see your hand raised. Is that that's one of the questions that I get a lot in my training. What's the difference between an emotion and a feeling? And I know a lot of folks on the call today know that difference. But just so that we can all be on the same page, I'll just share. Very simple. What I say in my trainings is that the emotion is more kind of like the reflective and impulsive. Is at the moment is kind of what is what you're experiencing. An emotion is, you could be, like I was saying earlier, you could be frustrated, and that's something that is happening right now. A feel is intellectual. Is a feeling is then when you later you basically are more of an intellectual thought of how something manifest in your body. So I could have like, and sometimes they actually do connect, because they're not absolutely, completely separate. It's something that you feel can create an emotion in you, but an emotion, like Alexandria, I think the concept of that you're sharing, Alexandria, is that because the emotions are, like the spontaneous and reflective, we need to be more aware of them, so that we don't necessarily, we may not want to be out with our emotions out there, because sometimes that could get in the way. Now, I would say that I do get, one of the complaints that I get in my training is this idea that men are usually trained to not show emotions. So then women are raised to be kind of more like, hey, you don't cry, show emotions. So then we're more stoic, and we are, so this masculinity is this idea that men are not to show their emotions. But I think in the future will be where we men are also, that we have to be allowed, and we have to feel comfortable to share our emotions, emotions of, love, affection, if we're sad, if we, so that we're all human beings. Henrika.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for bringing these points up, because also what Alexandria here like takes up the thing with the words, like also what we've been speaking about, the level of awareness that we have about what's going on, and then depending on our cultural conditioning and the language and the wordings we're using, it's very important to always, just as you just beautifully did, Luis, and also Nadege and Nazneen, and you others who have spoken today, is sort of like that we open up these conversations and we ask each other, what do you mean by that? Or what does it mean to you? Or what have you learned that it made, what has it made to be meant to you? So that we know what we're talking about, because these are all these invisible things like emotions and feelings and mental and cognitive and physiological and psychological structures and thoughts and beliefs. They're not tangible. So I find it very useful that we always like ask each other, like, yeah, what did you mean by that? And how does that translate into your world? So that's the first point in terms of language. And then like the importance of always paying attention to context when we speak about these things. Like, what context am I functioning in? The way you just said, Luis, for example, the gender difference. Like, there are these suppositions or assumptions like men can do this or women can do that. And again, it can be like women are too emotional or not enough emotional, and men as well. And that depends on the culture. So again, in which context are we speaking? And just to have that, as we've said, you said in the beginning, Luis, the open mind is so important, these conversations, so that we sort of bring the maximum points of views on the table and then start exploring them together, because it is quite a complex thing, actually.
I love it. I love the whole dynamic of gender and emotions, right? Like, men don't show emotion, women are too emotional. So those are kind of the stereotypes that we have to work to dismantle those, because they can be, can work against us. So Cielo, you had your hand up. You want to share your thoughts with us?
Sure. Going off of that, men versus women's emotions, I think the important part is that not that men don't show emotions, it's that men's emotions are more acceptable in society than women's emotions. And so men are displaying, anger, and sometimes anger is right, but when women show that, they might be seen as more emotional, or the emotions that women mostly are predisposed to are seen as more soft emotions. And so those are the ones that make us more emotional. And so I think in society's context, it's not that men aren't emotional, it's just that men's emotions are more acceptable, especially in the workplace, right? And so something that I've been listening to underlying in this conversation is self-awareness. And self-awareness is so important to emotional intelligence. Self-awareness is the first pillar to emotional intelligence. It's understanding, seeing yourself clearly, understanding who we are, who others are, how they see us, and how we fit into the world, and then being able to decipher our emotions within that. And then comes that management, and when it comes to emotional management, it's not just like stuffing your emotions and controlling them, because, how lovely would it be if we could only feel positive emotions all the time? In life, we deal with negative emotions every single day. And so it's really important to not just stuff those emotions, but learn how to manage them appropriately, because negative emotions or difficult emotions do happen. And so you have to learn how to manage those to move through life.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Cielo. I see you said a lot of important topics in there, so we're going to have to go one by one, but I'd like to take you on the workplace and the display of emotions, and with the gender difference, and I'll add a layer to that, which is the cultural layer, right? So and racial layer. So one of the complaints that we find from the African American community is that people who are not used to who did not grow up close to an African American community and are not familiar with them may feel, they may feel intimidated by them. So they're, scared because I don't, and African Americans, like Latinos, when we are excited, we raise our voice, we use our hands. So we, we're kind of more, we're less stoic. We're like, yeah, this and that. And one of the things that happens is that folks who are not used to working cross-culturally with other races like Latino and African American, then they feel intimidated and scared by that, and then they report it, so there is obviously the, the angry Black woman, unfortunately, which affects, I'm smiling here, but just because, I'm smiling because we're among friends, but this is a very serious topic where for an African American woman, this can be a limiting thing to their career, and it shouldn't be, because this is just an expression of how she is. She maybe she's frustrated about something that is happening, but that shouldn't have to be a derail in her career, when her frustration is just a sign of she's really interested in making things better. So it could be leveraged as a way to take us to a better place, right? So I see a lot of raised hands. I actually have more people in the lobby waiting. So Leng, I see you have your hand raised. So I'm going to bring you here, and so you share your thoughts. And before we do that, I have a comment here from Merugu, who is saying, between a stimulus and our response, there is a space. In this space lies our power to choose, and in this space lies our freedom and growth. I love that, Merugu. I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name right, but this idea of, when we have this stimulus and we are, kind of experiencing this emotion, and then their response, that's the period where we can do something about it. Going back to Cielo's point, self-awareness. If I know myself and I know my emotion, I recognize the stimulus, what I'm feeling, and then in that space, I can manage myself to have a better response, right? The one that I'm going to be proud of and not regret. Leng, your thoughts?
Going to categorize it, right? Because emotions are very tough to explain. Okay, where does it come from? It comes from the amygdala in the brain. But where does it feel from? It feels from the core of your stomach, right? Like when you're stuck in traffic, you're angst and you're late for work. What do you feel? You feel the anxiety. When you're feeling nervous going on stage, you feel the anxiety. And then when you're fearful, it's the same feeling. When you're excited, it's the same feeling, right? But we need to be able to care enough to decipher between the two, because we can manage our own all we want. Are we going to be able to manage how we feel in reaction to the person in front of us? And I do believe that we can categorize it. It starts with body, understanding that, breath, understanding the autonomic system where you automatically breathe, shuts down when you turn 30, and knowing that if we can work on that by ourselves and accept ourselves and care enough to accept others, self-awareness is basically non-existent anymore, because it's care. It turns into care, because you have to care first before you are aware. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Len. I love that idea of kind of like the transition, right? Going from self-awareness into caring and understanding their reactions in your body. Thoughts and reactions to Len? Anybody would like to build on that or challenge Len?
I want Merugu to speak on this because he wrote something really powerful. Merugu, please.
Okay,
Yeah.
Merugu, maybe you want to join the conversation. And I want to make sure that we react to Leng's. I think Leng is bringing something very important. I don't want to dismiss it. So Merugu, if you want to start by maybe reacting to Leng, if you have comments on that, and then we'll move into your thoughts.
Right. So good evening, everyone. And what Leng Xiong said about you will care if you're aware. So getting ourselves to a space or a situation to be aware will require us to dwell on occurrences, on stimulus, because in today's hyper busy world, you seldom find people practicing the pause. So when you pause, you will have that kind of what he was talking about, the medulla. There is a very still small space behind your brain at the nape of your neck. Even just thinking about just going there and sitting down will give you a lot of peace. It will move you away from the situation. And being emotional, like some comments have said that the women are more emotional. It is because of possibly the pressure the man has more options to stress out. The lady has to look after the home and she's got more things to do. So possibly she would be more emotive when she wants something to be done.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marugu. Let's do something. So we are at 8:10 for me, but it's basically 40 minutes since we started. So, you know, we're around the half of the call. So what I like to do is, as we're getting into these conversations, so we've touched on self-awareness, right? So we talked about emotions, feelings, self-awareness, right? So I'm going to go ahead and open up some breakout rooms so that you go in a small team with 1 or 2 people. Henrika, have a thought on a second there, Henrika. So then we're going to send folks into a breakout room, and the idea would be, let's talk about self-awareness, and or you can talk about anything you want, but you know, if you don't know what to talk about, then self-awareness will be the center of the conversation. You know, share about what you think on self-awareness, and I have this question for you. So you can choose to use it if you like. Is one exercise is, if you're going into a group of 2 or 3 people, discuss among yourselves what are your, so if somebody was describing you, what are the things that that person would say? What would people say if they were describing you? What would people say you are if they were describing you? And what would people not say that you are if they were describing you? So that's an exercise. If you want to take it, you can take it. If you want to talk about something else, you can. But what are things that people say you are if they were describing you? And what are things that people say would not say that you are if they were describing you? So before I send you into breakout rooms, Henrika, you have some thoughts there to share?
Yes, thank you. I just want to really thank you, everybody, for what you've brought up until now, because these are so important things. Like these different perspectives and sensations and points of view, they are so enriching and probably just creating insights for each other, because sometimes you just need to hear one word, how somebody else thinks about it or puts it or turns it into words, and that can create a massive insight that can have huge ripple effects in your own world and then how you go about your thing. So thank you for everybody. And I just wanted to make sure that we don't forget the comment from Jesenia in the comments, which is hugely important, that also touches upon trauma and how that stands in the way of your connecting with yourself and in that emotional intelligence. So as we go into the breakout rooms, let's not forget to come back to that as well. And speak about that and hear about your perspectives and points of view about that, because it is something that is very useful, I think, to also
Let's
take
go
up.
ahead and read it before we go into the breakout room. So from Yesenia Morales, she says, thank you, Henrika and panel, for the thoughts. I am listening, and I wonder about how trauma impacts this process of recognizing, hold on, my text now got stuck here, hold on a second, of recognizing
And I can
and connecting our emotions, thoughts, behaviors, and bodily sensation. This notion of self-awareness can be tricky because it can imply that we are all fully in control of shifting from unconscious to, well, I lost the text here. Okay, unconscious to conscious. There are those that don't even recognize that they need help making that shift. This is a very interesting topic. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into a breakout room. So I'm going to breakout room, so it'll randomly get you into a room of or 2 or 3 people. So discuss, you know, main theme from today is self-awareness, but kind of go where you want to go. But we'll have about 6 minutes so that we can come back and have about 10 minutes to discuss a little bit what we've talked about in the groups, and then close for today, right? So here we go. I'm going to separate you guys into, let's see, 9, if we do 9 groups. Let's do this. All right, here we go, guys. So I'll call you back in about 6 minutes. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring my friends. So Henrika, let's see, spotlight. I need Nadege, spotlight, and then I have to look for Nazneen here somewhere. Nazneen here, okay, and add a spotlight. All right, good. So I love to, we have only 10 minutes left, so I would like to invite the folks that had an opportunity to meet somebody new. And then if you had, I know you have very little time, but in that little time that you had, any thoughts, who had an interesting conversation you'd like to share about? Anyone?
Anyone from the audience, please start. I met Christy. It was very fun. The kind of conversation we spoke about anxiety. Okay, so anxiety. So a lot of people speak about us positively, but that's, yes, Christy's there. I want to hear from her. Christy, please start. So I hope you like it.
We were talking about your question, Luis, and I was saying how people don't recognize in me the anxiety that I feel a lot of the time. Specifically, if I'm maybe leading a discussion, people have no clue what's going on internally when I, at least like when I start, when I get going, that's something that Ling had talked about too, is that you feel that anxiety right before. But I also feel I deal with anxiety like it's always there all day long. It's like this undercurrent going, and it's understanding how to deal with that. And part of what Nazneen had said was, it's like, if there's certain situations that come up that might encourage that feeling, is like putting yourself in those situations, like you're exercising yourself, you're and developing your skills in order to deal with those kinds of situations.
I love that. So I love that idea that as you are learning to, face, embrace, and navigate through that, then progressively you find opportunities to put yourself in those situations that would cause that, so that you can learn to build then your ability to manage it. I love that thought. Wonderful. Thank you, Christy and Nazneen. So any other people who had conversations, who else would like to share? Who else had an interesting conversation? We only have a few minutes before we close today, so we'd love to hear. About Anne. Anne, who do you talk to, Anne?
I had the pleasure of talking with Solomon and Carolyn, and we discussed how it's very easy to talk about these emotions in this very serene Zoom meeting where maybe there's pressures from the day that will be happening or already happened, depending on where you are in the globe, but shifting that to real life and the stresses of your job, stresses of family life, and really practicing in the moment is where the rubber meets the road. And so we talked about how to practice that in those very stressful moments, not only with ourselves and knowing that in practicing we will make mistakes, and that everybody else is practicing and will make mistakes. And so we have to offer grace to everybody in that practice, knowing that we are all trying our best. And that would be a quick synopsis of our conversation. But please jump in, Solomon or Carolyn, if I missed anything.
That's it, Caroline, go ahead. So first, just to react to that, I love this idea that, kind of good intent, assume good intent. We're all practicing. We're all in this together. Give grace, right? Allow for, everyone's going to make mistakes. So allow for people to make mistakes, give second opportunities. So I love the concept of grace, but I want to invite Caroline. So Caroline, you were called out. So do you want to come out here and share any thoughts there in the few minutes that we have left? Caroline, you want to come up? Yes, no? Otherwise, we'll just go to, since we have very little time, I'll invite, so let's see. So I have, there is a raised, there are multiple hands that are raised, and I see one from Zoom user. So Zoom, don't have a name for you, but I can bring you in. You wanna share your thoughts with us? It doesn't show your name. You wanna share your thoughts? Who are you with on the call? On the breakout room? Okay, so we'll have to then move to, so let's see, Carolyn. So we're calling Carolyn. Carolyn is muted. Then how about Melissa? Melissa, any thoughts on your conversation? Who are you talking to? Oh, Phyllis. Well, Melissa.
Hey, I'm off. Yeah, I can quick share. I was chatting with Edna and Lang, and we spoke about a variety of things. We talked about self-love. We talked about identities and different identities that we carry. We talked about how we show up and how we meet people where we are. So a lot of that had to do with self-awareness and empathy.
Nice, very good. Self-awareness, empathy, you know, how we show up, very important. All right, very good. Let's see. Who else wants to, any thoughts,
Lang,
anybody else?
Yeah, Lang, you have raised your hand. Do you want to add something?
Yes,
I'm talking about me. Yes, I do actually. I wanted to help Christy out a little bit. I know you have anxiety when you start the conversation, and I do too. But what helps me is 10 very deep breaths every hour, every day for a week. And you will not only notice that you'll speak slower, but you'll be calmer too. And when you do that, you relax and the anxiety just goes away. Because the only way that we can burn energy, because that anxiety comes from energy. And the only way we can burn that is if we breathe it out of us. And it always helps me to breathe. I know that a lot of us millennials today are in the mental institutions. We do get hospitalized for anxiety. And it's because we forget to breathe. We're so anxious to talk. We're so anxious to say what we have to say because we don't get to talk very often. And that's why we do it. But I wanted to leave you with that value before I.
Thank you. Thank you. I totally understand what you're saying about it comes from our energy. And I sometimes I always think to myself, is this why I always have so much energy? Is that it's all intertwined with this anxiety and I'm like, go, 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 go. But taking the deep breaths, and I know I went through a period of time where I had a note on my screen saying, breathe, 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 because I forget. So, yeah.
Thank you. All right. So we'll have to, you know, we're coming up here at the top of the hour. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of close us up. So what we'll do is a round of closing thoughts from my leading voices here, friends. So I'm going to go ahead and start then with Nadege. So Nadege, if you want to do your closing thoughts.
Thank you very much. Yeah, wow, what a conversation. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I feel I've learned a lot today. It was so great to see all your insights. I really loved how that conversation branched out into emotion, anxiety, the relation between emotions and feelings, and our mind and body and diversity. It was just really, really, really interesting. Thank you very much. And if in case we have a few minutes, I'd like to go back to a comment from, if she's still there, from Alexandria. And in case if Alexandria would like to take a minute to elaborate on your comment, which said, me as a woman could definitely say all emotion comes from the woman, unfortunately. You can agree or not, but men are not involved with emotion until woman starts. Don't forget who deliver and educate the man. I think that it's a very interesting thought. And if you would like to elaborate on that, Alexandria, that would be very interesting.
So we are running out of time, Alexander, but if you want to, I mean, we invite you to come up and say more about that. And I mean, if I know folks may have to drop at right at the top of the hour and may leave, but if anybody has a few more minutes and you just want to hang on for a little bit, let's go ahead and get into that thought. So Alexandria, would you like to elaborate and expand more on that? Where are you, Alexandria?
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, great.
Yes.
If I would say my opinion, everyone will think of how I said, but I believe this question for everyone to think about it, because this is the main point. If I give the rules, everyone will follow the rules. If I give, if I say something, everybody will think. But this is the main point. Yes, I do think that women's are the first who starts with emotion. So let everybody think about this. How does it come? They need to observe that situation, everything, and then they will understand what I meant.
Okay, maybe Lama, you have not had an opportunity to say something today. Is that, do you wanna, are you connecting there with Alexandra? Any thoughts you'd like to share?
Yes, good morning, everybody, and sorry I was late. Yes, I was very excited when I heard this insight from Alexandria. Recently, I had this conversation with some friends into the emotional intelligence world, and we were talking about the role of women, and like in my case, of moms, as we're raising our children, our girls, our boys, you know, the impact that we have on them and the way we're transmitting. And coming from different cultures, you know, it's just a lot of times, you know, we don't like or we don't appreciate the way men are coming around and they're behaving in this world. But then we forget that the men that are today were raised by a woman many times. So many of these challenges that we are seeing in men today, I think it's time for us to come back as women and to really revisit the way we are approaching. Anyway, it's not a discussion that we can have in 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I know we have to leave, but it's something that a lot of women are coming to, you know, process and think about. How are we raising our boys?
I love that thought. So kind of new rules, right? So we're looking at men. Men are not expressing their emotions, and that's causing a problem. If men are raised by women, then what can women do? I love that thought. I had a friend of mine told me, you know, his teenage son that was only, I don't know, maybe 14 or 15 at the time, had a girlfriend. So like he came to tell me the news that, you know, his son was for the first time kind of having a girlfriend. And what was important for him was to train his son to make sure that he was respectful with that girl and that he would never break her heart. And I thought, wow, that's I don't know that I don't know a lot of men that are telling that to their, you know, teenage boys, to say the most important thing is you have to be respectful, you know, with this woman and make sure that you never break her heart. We need more of that as we're training our sons too. Other, you know, we just, the time is up, but before we go, you know, obviously I want Henrika and Nazneen to be able to do the closing
Yes.
thoughts, but anybody else that have not participated before that would like to share a thought on
I
that?
think Caroline was trying to say something. Caroline, can you hear me? Can
Caroline, can you,
say?
are you camera ready? Caroline, you want to come up?
Yeah.
I'm still in my PJs, actually. It's 6:30
No
in the
problem.
morning.
No problem.
Can you guys
We're all
hear?
friends here, family.
I apologize. Earlier I was having audio issues, but I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of what Anne had previously stated about giving grace to others, because we're all kind of in this together and doing our best. She had mentioned just giving grace, and I thought that was quite astute, just because in my day to day, I tend to be a little bit heavier handed with others and then hope for a little more grace whenever I mess up. And I thought, yeah, that is so true, because you know, I personally need to extend more grace and try to have that reminder. So
I love it.
that's all. And I appreciate everyone here today. Yeah, this has been great. Thanks, Louis.
Thank you, Caroline. And I think you say something very important that I love, is that when we think of how something can be better, sometimes we may think how others could do it better. So it's like we're never the problem. Everybody else is the problem. So how, if we're talking about grace, can people give us more grace? But what about what Caroline is saying? It's not only about other people giving us more grace. Can we give grace to other people? So like every time that we identify an opportunity for something, how something could be better, then how about we start with us and say, hey, where am I at? In fact, when you see something about a person that you don't like and that you think would be better, then turn it to yourself and say, where am I on that? Because we always think of us more positively than, we tend to think about us favorably, but we can all improve, right? So, okay, very good. We have some comments on the chat. Let me go ahead and just read. I was having trouble reading comments on the chat before because they were moving too fast, but I'm going to go ahead and read a few comments here. I'm sorry that I won't be able to read them all, but let's see. So, well, Len says wellness, ethics, responsibility, opportunity, networking, emotional intelligence. I love that. Cielo says that seems to be a lot of pressure to put on mothers. Fathers do play a part in parenting and relaying emotional expression and management to both their sons and daughters. I love that. Thank you, Cielo. I would say that society culture shapes parenting on emotions. Wow, very strong. I love that comment that we parent need to definitely, I think something like our son there may be sons that are maybe more likely to hear their fathers instead of mothers. So then, the role of a father in making sure that you help your sons in building and expressing their emotion is important. Okay, Yesenia Morales says, assume positive intent, 50% of the equation, and then focus on impact, which is the other 50%. Great comments here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and in respect to respect your time, I'm going to ask then and Henrika to go ahead and continue with the closing thoughts, and then Nazneen will have her final thoughts, and then we'll close up. And then so make sure that you can connect with other folks here, and then make sure to share your thoughts, feedback, if you liked it, didn't like it, what you like, what you didn't like, what you learned. And we're always trying to learn. In self-awareness, we want to be better. So if there was something about this call that you liked, let us know. If there was something that you didn't like, then let us know, and we'll continue to get better. Henrika.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Lang and Caroline and Lama, for sharing these thoughts and bringing them up, and Cielo as well. I just love this idea that's really popping up towards the end of the conversation about the gracefulness and the compassion and the kindness, and that all of that attitude and approach that invites us to come together and really pay attention and make the effort of going beyond all the biases that might stand in the way in a separative way between, what's right, what's wrong, what's masculine, what's feminine, what's, taking into consideration all the neurodiversity, the gender diversity, the racial diversity in all these conversations, so that we can just focus on the kindness. I love what Brené Brown says, clear is kind. And also what Dalai Lama says, we have a Lama here today, but what Dalai Lama says about kindness, like whenever you can, be kind whenever possible, it's always possible. So I think if there's something that's always possible, as much as we train with our brokenness and our imperfections, and we've all been broken and we all have broken other people unwillingly, unknowingly, but just having that compassion and self-kindness and kindness to each other, I think that's, we can't go wrong with kindness if our intention is to bring each other together and to understand ourselves and each other.
I love it. It's always possible. Wonderful. And we cannot go wrong with kindness. Wow. On that note, Nazneen.
Yes, wonderful, Henrika. I just love what you said. And I mean, the communication when we started, I think we covered a lot of points, empathy, trauma, anger, fear, anxiety, and everything rolls around only one concept, that is, primarily self-awareness. So I wish we all get, over the time we must get matured enough to see ourselves first before pointing, when we point one finger on someone, there are 4 fingers that comes back to us. So that should be always kept in mind. So awesome. Live and let live. I have that saying. in my life. Live and let live. Thank you, Luis, for giving us the
I love it.
opportunity.
Live and let live. I love that. So unfortunately, we run out of time. I know folks have to go back and, we have to do some work for Nazneen. It is now the Friday evening, so you can go party or, go see your friends. For us here in the western part of the world, we have a day ahead of us that we have to go work. But I'd like to thank each one of you. Henrika, thank you for making the time to join us today and, share with us your thoughts and your expertise. Same to you, Nadege. Thank you for always being so generous, with your knowledge and helping others. And congrats on the work you're doing on inclusion. And Nazneen, obviously, always love your work on HR and organizational effectiveness and how you're helping so many organizations. Thank you for being with us today. So I think the message today, okay, Henrika, you have a thought. So the message today is that from a self-awareness standpoint, right, that I love some of the themes today in terms of self-awareness, understanding ourselves, and then kind of when we talk about grace, giving people other opportunities, assuming positive intent, and that we, it's always possible to, be kind, to give an opportunity to do things better. And then what was the kindness is there's always a time for kindness, or what was the thought there, Henrika? The last thought.
Yeah, it was clear is kind, and be kind whenever possible. It's always possible.
It's always possible.
Wonderful.
And I just, if that's okay, I just wanted to share a poem from Luis that he has written that is beautifully concluding all of this. And for the ones who are just able to listen to that, I was very touched when I read this poem. So in honor of Luis connecting all of us, I would just like to share that to end this call today. So our friend Luis has written something very beautiful that goes, "You're that way, and I am this way. And you'd like me to be more that way, less this way. And I had wanted you to be more this way, less that way. But I have thought more about it. The best is that you be your way and I be my way, and that I love you in the way you are, that way, and that you love me the way I am, this way. We can move toward our ways if we want to, no need to. I love you that way. Thanks for being that way. Please keep being that way."
Wow. Wow, Luis, wonderful. I never knew you could write.
Oh, beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful? I was like, oh my goodness, Luis, you're a love poet.
It speaks so much about your sensitivity. You're very sensitive, Luis. I could make out from this.
Well,
Luis, I didn't know about these hidden talents of yours.
Please, I call that blushing.
Now revealed.
Listen, nobody knows Luis as long as I know him, and I did not know.
I never had this experience before, so now I am read. But thank you, Henrika, for making the time to read it. I'm so glad you liked it, and thank you for sharing it with all. So I like you all. I love you all in that way, in the way that you are, and thank you for accepting me in this way. So with that, thanks everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the day. And if you are interested in more sessions like this, let us know and we can put these together.
Yes.
Get together again. All right. So thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, God bless you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Take care.
Have a great rest of the day. Bye.
Pleasant evening, pleasant day, pleasant morning. See you.